It's way easier to convince a guy to go down the wrong path than it is a woman. Yikes. Don't do it, gentlemen. Don't do it. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Motivation in a Moment, your place to go for real life, relatable motivation and conversation pertaining to self-development, self-help, and self-love. Because remember, you cannot love anybody else until you love yourself first. I'm DB Parker, your friend that has no problem getting into this stuff. So with that being said, we're gonna go ahead and get into this next topic. So as we know, Valentine's Day just passed. The entire week, the day, the weekend, all of that went by. So people had time to celebrate. I hope you did. If it pertains to you, I know I did. I spent time with my wife. So that's obviously a big time for married couples, dating couples, engaged couples, even singles to get a chance to go out there and explore love, enjoy love, and see what the opportunity is out there for them to find love. Last week, the question of the week pertained to romance. Remember, the question of the week is posted on Instagram and on TikTok. So if you didn't get a chance to see it, that's where you can find it. Now, the question asked, is romance important in your relationship? If so, what's actually romantic? So in other words, what do you consider to be romantic? Now, we had a couple of people weigh in and answer the question, of course, and kind of tell us exactly what it was that they thought. So I'm gonna go ahead and read some of those things off. One follower states, listening intently and doing random acts of kindness without me asking. Now, I'm gonna weigh in on this one right here because I think that this one is pretty huge. I'm going to repeat this again. Listening intently and doing random acts of kindness without me asking. There's a lot to break down in that. Now, and this is perfect because this comment actually came from a young lady. Now, the first part of it, she says listening intently. This implies that she wants you to actually focus on what it is that she's talking about. She wants you to actually listen. She wants you to actually engage and digest whatever it is that she's telling you about. It could be something that you consider to be important or something that you don't consider to be important. However, she wants her partner's full attention on this. And I gotta say, fellas, I'm going to point this one at the fellas because this one is from a young lady. I got to say that this is something that many of us, many of us men miss the mark on when it comes to our ladies. I know because I've been guilty of it. I've seen men in my family demonstrate this. And what that is failing to listen intently. And I'll give you an example of that. If your wife is telling you about something that she needs your help with, she wants you to clean the dishes if you get a chance, if you have free time at home, so that way to make it easier for her to prepare dinner. Men, nah. That's the response of quite a few men. No. Well, when she comes home, the dishes weren't cleaned and she's asking you what it was that happened, and what do we say, fellas? What? You asked me? You asked me to wash the dishes? When you say that, we weren't listening intently in that situation. In that situation, I'll be the first to admit that I was just listening and responding to hear you and to get you to shut up. That's it. Not many guys are going to be willing to admit that, but a lot of times we respond just to let you know that we hear you, because hearing and listening aren't the same thing, but we hear you. And our response is just to get you to bring that statement or that conversation to an end. So this is obviously an unhealthy relationship practice. This can easily walk us into a situation where our woman feels like we don't respect her fully because we're not paying her attention. We don't take her seriously because we appear to not be paying her attention. And chances are that's probably not the case. But if we correct this one issue, just this one particular issue, it may contribute to a possible solution to solving those other issues of her feeling like we don't respect her or pay attention to her if she feels that way in the first place. Just be prepared for some work, because like any other issue that we have to correct, anything that we have to really work on, it's going to take some effort to change this. But best suggestion is to actually ask your girlfriend, your wife, your fiance, whoever it may be, what she thinks that you can do to improve this. Make sure she actually feels included on the fact that you want to make this adjustment, because now that you include her on your attempts to make this adjustment, at least she knows that you're taking her seriously enough to make that adjustment in the first place. Now, in the second half of this young lady's response is doing random acts of kindness without me asking. That's a big one. I think that that's something that honestly most people would probably appreciate. Most of us would appreciate you to do something, or our significant others to do something nice for us without us asking. That shows that you care. That shows that you're thinking about me. It shows that you have a heart. It's so many things that shows, but it's also so many things that it provides for the person receiving it. It provides a sense of security. It provides a feeling of being at home and having a safe place, knowing that someone's willing to do these nice things just because they want to, not because you want them to. Now, in this second portion of our comment can honestly be broken up into another two portions, with the random acts of kindness part and then the without me asking part as well. But we're going to keep them together for the sake of time. Now, what I would suggest, if you haven't already, is to read this book.
Nice.
5 Love Languages. I am not getting paid to promote this. I wish that I was. But this particular section, or this particular part of this young lady's comment, pertains to one of these languages. And it's the second language, or the second love language, which is act of kindness. Now, I didn't unfortunately get a chance to have a one-on-one conversation with this young lady about this particular comment in regards to her wanting to receive these acts of kindness without asking for them. But I'm willing to bet that at face value, most men would assume that, she probably wants him to bring her gifts or something like that. And that could be the case. It could be physical, tangible gifts. It could be that she wants a piece of jewelry every so often, or flowers, or whatever the case might be, which there's nothing wrong with that. But let's admit, gifts aren't always things that we can touch. Remember, she said acts of kindness. A gift could also be an action without her asking for that. Perhaps she would like for her significant other to clean the snow off her car without her asking. Perhaps she would like if her significant other, made sure her keys were at the side of the door, made sure that her phone was charged if she fell asleep with the phone in her hand and it was going to die or something like that. A lot of times we look so deeply into what a gift might be that we can actually ruin it. And I would suggest that the best thing to do to get over this hurdle of ruining gifts, if you are the person who is to be providing it, don't look at what you would want your gift to be. You have to analyze your partner and think about what it is that they actually like. Perhaps she, in this case, cleaning that snow off the car for her. Perhaps that really would mean a great deal to her. Maybe she struggles with it. Maybe she has some sort of issue with the cold weather, if the snow it could be anything. But knowing that her significant other is willing to put whatever he has going aside, or to take an extra effort to make sure that this is met for her, that's something that she appreciates. She says it right there. So that's just a small example of how performing these acts of kindness without asking could actually be beneficial and helpful. The engagement with this particular question was perfect, okay? So the next comment that I'm going to read is from a man, and his comment says, allow God to enter the relationship wholeheartedly, keeping the line of communication open and not allowing outside distractions to interfere within. Now, in response to this particular comment, the first portion of allowing God to enter the relationship, that is going to vary on a case-by-case basis. And I am not someone who's going to throw any sort of religious or spiritual opinions on it. I'm going to try my best to keep this as easy to adapt to as possible regarding what your denomination, your religion, or anything may be. But the second portion of it says, keeping the line of communication open and not allowing outside distractions to interfere within. Now, keeping the line of communication open is massive. I don't know about you, but have you ever tried to communicate with somebody who shut down? I mean, shut down to the point that not only do they not want to respond, they don't even want to give or initiate any action, any conversation to anything involving what you have to say or involving you in general. Now, because this one came from a man, I'm going to direct this one to the ladies. If you find yourself in some sort of altercation with your husband, your boyfriend, whoever he may be, young ladies, please try your absolute best to still be willing to have some sort of communication throughout the life of the altercation. That does not mean that you can't be mad. You can still be as mad as you want to be, but just be willing to still communicate. For one, ladies, one of the biggest complaints that most women have about men is that they aren't in touch with their emotions and they don't communicate. So if you are fortunate enough in the first place to even be with a man who's willing to communicate, please recognize the rareness of that opportunity, the rareness of what you have in that situation. So having that rare possession of a man who is willing to communicate it makes it so much easier. Just from that standpoint alone, at least you have someone that you can actually kind of begin to build some sort of resolution with. But I'm gonna tell you this, ladies, this is a secret about men. It's a massive secret. Probably not that big. When something's wrong, we tend to get the absolute worst possibility, worst image in our mind about what could possibly be going on. Now, remember, we're talking about a conflict between a man and a woman. And when the woman decides to not communicate, our minds start running. And I'm going to admit, we're probably wrong about the stuff that we're thinking about, but we think about Oh, she must be cheating. She don't want to talk to me, and she got away from me for, I don't know, a couple hours. She done probably found somewhere to go, found somebody to mess with, or maybe she's messing with my stuff. Maybe she's trying to destroy my stuff behind my back. Ladies, if you really want to avoid, in addition to the conflict that's already going on, if you want to avoid multiplying that, just simply be willing to still communicate. If he reaches out to you during the altercation and asks, hey, are you okay? Yeah, respond. You don't have to say, oh yeah, babe, I'm doing wonderful. Nobody's asking you to do that. Just say, I'm okay. If you normally let him know when you get home from work or when you make it to work via text message or whatever, hey, home. Nobody's saying that you lost the fight because you decided to put your pride aside for that 1 second and still communicate. Please do the mature thing and still communicate, and you can address the rest of the issue later. Now, here's another thing that happens when a woman does not communicate with a man. In some situations, a man will use that to comfort his own negative thoughts. We all have bad thoughts, we're human. But if you're doing something, if you're not communicating, and he implants in his mind that you're doing something that you shouldn't be doing, now he can give himself a false comfort in going out to do something that he shouldn't be doing in the first place as well. Now, it doesn't necessarily mean that he's going to go out and convince himself to cheat or that it's okay to cheat. He could be doing something way less than that. Perhaps he's going to a bar or something, but he could also be cheating. Now, if that does happen, we're not going to say that it's your fault that he cheated. I will say that the lack of communication opened the door for that, but that's ultimately a whole separate issue that we're not going to get into with this as we're pertaining to this gentleman's comment. The moral of the story is, ladies, just please, and men as well, okay? Leave the line of communication open. It's the necessity of the communication trumps your emotion and your ego in the moment of being upset, okay? Communicate. At least that way, you at least know that each other's okay, at the very minimum. Now, the final portion of his comment was to not allow outside sources to interfere within the relationship. I don't think anybody would disagree with this if they're really paying attention to it or if they've experienced this. Now, I've experienced this from several sides throughout my life, from having the outside source interfere, from allowing an outside source to interfere, and from also being the outside source. And what I can say as a man who's been the outside source, ladies, do not, please, do not go to another man and express your concerns, your issues, your complaints with your man, especially another man that you find attractive, another man that is single, or another man who's just giving you some sort of comfort, okay? And unless he's a family member, please be very careful of this. I've personally been a man that women have gone to express these concerns, and I guess I can say that I'm honored at the fact that they felt comfortable enough to come to me. But I'm going to be honest with you, in those situations, if I really wanted to take advantage of those weaknesses, I certainly could have. If a woman is coming to you with a tender heart And ladies, if a man is able to say the right things to you to make you feel better about your situation, or I'll be even more specific, if you're complaining to him about the quality of your man and what he's doing wrong, and if he's able to explain to you and convince you that, one, you're absolutely right about this fella that you're with, that he is nothing, that he is a bad decision, and he's able to convince you that he himself is the opposite and just so happens to be everything that you really want, or if you already know that he possesses what you really want, you think that's a good decision? Be honest, lady. What are you thinking about in that situation? What are you really thinking about? And if that guy is playing the game that many of us play and have played, he's using the bait to reel you right in. Please don't do it. And for men, it's not even as deep, to be honest with you. Men, let's not go complain to any woman about our woman. Any single woman, any woman who's in a relationship and she's questionable, don't do it. Because for us, it doesn't take extreme effort to lure us in like it can with a woman. For a guy, we probably aren't really listening to what you're saying in the first place. If you're giving us advice about our lady, we're more so looking at you. And it's way easier to convince a guy to go down the wrong path than it is a woman. Don't do it, gentlemen. Don't do it. Now, perhaps the outside source that you allow into your relationship is not the opposite sex. That's possible. That's not always the case. One thing that I'll also say is, of course, be careful who you share your stories with and your circumstances with. But if you are in a relationship and you're venting to someone who's not in a relationship and they're happy without being in a relationship, or they're trying to convince you that they are, they might be gonna recruit you to come and join their squad, the single squad, unintentionally or intentionally. I'm gonna say this, okay? You can be friends with whoever. That's fine. All of our friends that we grow apart from or that we spend time with, they all have their place in our lives. But a married woman or a woman in a relationship who has the intent of being married has no place in a circle of single women. Outside of just spending time every so often, you do not need to be going to clubs with single women. You do not need to be going to bars with single women. You do not need to be having drunk conversations with single women. It's very dangerous, and it's very important to remember that you should flock around the birds that you want to be with. Remember, birds of a feather flock together. Single women who've never been married or aren't in relationships, or who've had unsuccessful marriages and relationships, they don't know how to be married. So how could you go to them for advice on something that they haven't experienced? Same thing happens for men. Men, if you're having issues with your lady, talk to another man who may have experienced it, but who's also on the right track, who seems to be a good husband or who seems to have a good wife. Don't talk to the guy that you know cheats every week. Or don't talk to the guy that you know is having a continuous, debate with his wife, or who's divorced, or who can never keep a girlfriend, or who's on his fifth man. Don't do it. It's poison. Obviously, his advice didn't work for him. Don't be foolish enough to think that it'll work for you. All right, so I hope that at least one person was really able to extract some useful information from this conversation. Continue to like, continue to subscribe, and please comment, leave your suggestions, leave your feedback so that we can get into some further conversations down the line. I hope that you continue to develop into the best possible version of yourself that you can. Stevie Parker, thanks for checking out Motivation in the Moment. Catch y'all next time.